Hello, everyone, and welcome to Growing Together, a gardening podcast with me, John Lamb, and Don Kinsler, a lifelong gardener and the North Dakota State University Extension horticulturist for Cass County. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. An update on my little begonia seedlings.
Yeah, how are things
when I
coming?
see those in February, the seed is like dust, like powder, and I can see the little seedlings now.
Okay.
So they're getting bigger, so progress is being made. And the geraniums that we overwinter in our basement under lights, they're blooming now. They look just, oh man. And so going down in our basement, looking at geraniums blooming, it's like a greenhouse and I can feel spring.
Yeah, it's nice to have that, especially because here we are in February, and February is the shortest month, but boy, it can sure seem like a long month, especially for gardeners.
It does. So, growing some of these things during the winter, it does shorten winter and it gives us the flavor of spring.
Yeah, and it's nice to kind of have something, to kind of see something familiar in your life, get out. It's hard to sometimes even get together with friends. You don't run into people as much right now. So it's really nice to have those little bits there. But we're going to be talking.
Well, yes, how can you be blue when you got a bright geranium staring you right in the face?
I know, and it gives you hope. It gives you hope for what's coming up. And other thing that gives us hope is we've talked about this book before, but today we're going to talk about the Prairie Garden. And this is a book. I guess it's a periodical now, isn't it? Because it comes out every year.
Yeah, it comes out every year. It is a book edition. Now, it's a wonderful group in Canada. It's a nonprofit organization called the Prairie Garden. And each year, this nonprofit group develops a book edition with a different theme each year. And I'm on that committee that develops this book. And yeah, the 2025 edition is the Prairie Garden. So even though it comes out each year, it's actually a book. A nice, wonderful book, and within that book, and of course, we'll dive into the book in a few minutes. But what's wonderful about each of these editions is they're composed of individual articles, so you can pick it up and read each of these individual articles within that book, and then put it down. So it's a great. I love it. Over a cup of coffee, because I can spend, 15 minutes reading an article, put it down, come back again another day, read another article.
Exactly. It's a great thing to start off in the winter, when you're kind of making plans, you're wanting to do a little bit of research. It's very digestible. You can pick up a little bit, read a little bit, like you said, set it down, go back to it. So it's a really nice thing.
It is. And this year's edition, the 2025 edition of the Prairie Garden, budget-minded gardening. Boy, and we can all use as much budgeting as possible, especially this year with prices going up. So, it's a wonderful book. Tells us how to garden and enjoy it without spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah, people will have a lot of questions about that, about how to be a budget-minded gardener this year and probably in upcoming years. And speaking of questions, we wanted to start off the show this week with a letter from a reader. We're going to try to do more because, here we are again, in winter, we don't get to interact with people as much as, on the street and out in the gardens, but we could still do it by letters. And so we thought we'd read a letter here that Don got.
Yes, and of course, the title of our podcast, Growing Together, we're all in this together. So it's fun to communicate together with this. And Judy writes in, she said, "You've mentioned a product that would end the cycle of infestation of tiny bugs in our houseplants. What was it? We've tried everything. The critters just keep multiplying and landing on the yellow sticky traps that we've put in. Thanks for any advice," from Judy. And of course, what she's referring to are those annoying little black bugs that just flitter around our houseplants. Those are called fungus gnats. They thrive on the organic material in potting soil. And of course, most potting soil has organic matter. So these are very, very common. And she mentions the life cycle. Okay, these little fungus gnats, what they do, the adult fly lays eggs in the soil. The egg hatches into a larvae, which lives in the soil for a little bit. Then the larvae hatches into an adult. The adult lays more eggs. The eggs hatch into a larvae. The larvae...
Circle of life.
The circle of life. Okay, and the yellow sticky traps do help. They'll catch the adult. But you see, if before that adult is caught on your trap, it's probably laid eggs in the soil. And so you keep having just this cycle. You may catch them, but they've probably already done their egg laying thing. So there's a wonderful product that she refers to, wondering what the name of it was. And it's called mosquito bits.
Okay.
Now, what does that have to do with fungus, gnats, and our houseplants? Well, mosquito bits is a granular product, and on the label, right below mosquito bits, it said also controls fungus gnats. Now, the beauty of this product, mosquito bits, is that it's a beneficial bacteria that inoculates your soil with a bacteria that specifically kills larvae. So in the soil will be these bacteria, and then when the eggs hatch into larvae, the bacteria kill the larvae. And so it breaks that cycle of life. Now, it may take a while, it's not instantaneous. You've got to break this cycle. There will probably be eggs, they'll hatch into more larvae, but then bacteria will kill them. And so, but if there's more adults, they'll probably lay more eggs. But eventually here with the soil inoculated, you're going to break that cycle. And the label will tell how to apply it to your houseplant soil. So the product is called Mosquito Bits. And I'm seeing this sold now in places that sell houseplants, because it's a very good way. You might think, well, gosh, it's probably sold during the summertime to get rid of your mosquitoes in standing water and ponds and things like that. So Judy, that's the answer to your fungus gnat dilemma. Is look at the garden centers for mosquito bits. It comes in a kind of a clear container, yellow and red is the label. Mosquito bits.
I bet Judy's probably not the only person out there who's had that problem. So I think a lot of people appreciate hearing that.
I've had that problem too. And in fact, I've currently got a new plant that I got. And I mean, it's not the fault of where you bought it. These eggs can be in the soil that they got. Okay. But I got a new plant and I've got some fungus gnats. So I need to put my money where my mouth is. And I've got some mosquito bits on hand. I'm going to treat that plant with it.
So if people have other questions for you, what's the best way to reach you?
Send me an email, donald.kinsler, KINZLER, @ndsu.edu.
All right. Now let's get into the book. Let's get into the Prairie Garden. How long have you been reading this?
Oh, man. It was probably about 5 years ago that I became familiar with this book series. And now, books tailored to northern gardens are rare. There's not a whole lot of authors that have concentrated on our northern growing area, and our growing area is unique. We have to have things that are winter hardy. They've got to be tailored to our growing season, the length of it. And so we need things that are adapted. We can't just read things that are tailored to other parts of the United States. So these books are rare. So a few years ago, I became familiar with this series, The Prairie Garden. And so I ordered a book about a few years ago. And what is neat is the Prairie Garden organization still has the back issues. They've been writing this for over 80 years. Now, they don't have all 80 books still available for us, but they have quite a number of years of back issues, and each year is a different edition. Last year was year-round gardening, giving us pointers how we can garden year-round. 1 year was shade gardening. 1 year was shrubs. 1 year was fruit growing. 1 year was vegetable gardening. And so all of these wonderful editions are there. Many of them you can still order. And these topics are evergreen. Vegetable gardening. That's as pertinent today as, even though it was maybe that issue as, I don't know, a few years ago, 5 years or 6 years. And so these editions are timeless.
Yeah, every year is a different theme. It's not a trend. We've talked about
Exactly.
on the show. These are not trends. So this is something that the information in here will be just as good in the next couple of years.
So a few years ago, I ordered at least a dozen of these. I went through and said, well, gosh, it's shade gardening. There's good stuff in here. And so I ordered about 12 of the different editions. And so they're sitting in a key spot on my desk. And then they asked, hey, would you like to be a member of the committee? And I thought, oh, yeah, man, because our area, the northern United States and the prairie provinces of Canada have so much in common. Our gardening climate does not know a national border.
Right.
So, what works well in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Saskatchewan also works well in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana. And so we're all in this big northern plains, prairie states, prairie provinces together. And so this is a wonderful way that gardeners can cooperate between Canada and the United States. And so this is a resource that to me is just absolutely priceless.
So a little bit like what the 2025 this budget-minded gardening. So again, we're talking about this. This is again a timely, of course, this year, but always, because people are always on a budget. You should always be on a budget. You should never just unlimited unless you can absolutely afford it. You should always have ideas of what things you kind of are in your range to do. So this is really very this is a really pertinent book right now.
Oh, it is. And one thing that I love about the ideas in this book, if I save a little money over here in gardening, I can spend a little money over there in gardening. So it's a great way to stretch your dollars. And so I love the practicality of these. And each of the editions of the Prairie Garden are so practical. When I read them, I know that they were written by authors, and each of the 57 articles in this book are written by mostly different authors. And when I read them, I can tell that the person that wrote that, they know what they're talking about. A lot of gardening are the kind of small finesses.
Yeah.
There's an old saying in gardening, to grow it is to know it. When you actually get in there, get your hands dirty with a particular type of plant or a process, and you actually have done it, all the little finesses and nuances of that. And I can tell that these articles are written not just about somebody talking about it, but they've done it.
Right.
That's valuable.
These are not online TikTok hacks or things like that make for good videos, but you really should question the knowledge behind there. These are researched. These are articles that have been researched. They've been vetted. They've been edited.
Exactly. These articles pass through a committee that chooses articles for the edition. And this is basic gardening at its finest.
And again, it is for our region.
Absolutely, yes. And that's what makes it so precious, is that it is tailored for the northern United States, Canada, the prairie provinces of Canada, and again, North Dakota, South Dakota, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Montana, Wisconsin. It's for us.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the book and talk about a couple of specific challenges and questions that they answer.
Get 3 months of local news for just 99 cents a month. You'll get unlimited access to the news you need to stay engaged and connected to your community. Visit inforum.com/subscribe now to get 3 months of local news for only 99 cents a month.
All right, we're back and we're talking about the new issue of the Prairie Garden. This is a yearly, an annual book, small book that comes out, and it's got advice for gardeners in our part of the world. So this is about zone 4, maybe it's a little bit into zone 3. Yeah.
Very comfortable for zone 3 as well. And it's a paperback edition, a very readable, easy. easy to navigate.
Before the break, I think you said there was about 70 articles.
57, I believe, in this one.
Which may sound kind of daunting. It may sound like a textbook, but really this is only about 180 pages, and it's the size of basically a Reader's Digest.
Exactly.
Or so. So it's a very compact. You can take it with you, and it's not all text. There are photos, so it's a good layout. It's easy to read. It's easily digestible, easy to follow. Let's talk about some of the things that you thought were kind of interesting. Let's talk about some of the sections, some of the headlines of the titles of some of the sections that got you kind of interested.
Yes, and of course, when we were discussing the title of the book, what to title this book, Budget-Minded Gardening, our editor, Evelyn Lundeen, said, well, her husband kind of just cheekily suggested, how about More Green for Less Green?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
That would have been a good title as well. Okay, well, when we kind of dig into this year's edition, there's some wonderful things. One of the titles that, of course, caught my eye, Garden Decor on a Dime. One of the articles that I just found fascinating it's actually the first article, Plant Propagation. And it's got some wonderful photos with it of cuttings of houseplants, and the roots on those cuttings just look amazing. It gives all the little intricacies of getting a well-rooted cutting. Instead of just sticking in a glass of water, it gives the justification as to why you root cuttings in a mix, a media, instead of in water. And it just is so practical. Again, when I read that, I thought, okay, he's done this. He knows it. This is well trialed. And so that was a great one. And let's see, there were 8 easy ways to save money in the garden. That has some great tips.
And ones like that, they are broken out, so it's like, tip number 1 is saving seeds. We've talked about that.
Yes.
It's a really common thing.
Tomatoes, marigolds, zinnias, there are some things that you can easily collect the seed from those.
Yeah. Another tip in there, dividing and sharing.
Perennials, daylilies, iris, ones that just propagate so easily, hosta, why not share those?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes they need dividing anyway, so why not share?
Another tip in there, reusing or making pots, again, great idea. Something you could do. Overwintering, of course, that's something that we try to do. We're trying that this year. We brought in some coleus. We're trying to keep those going, propagate those a little bit. So yeah.
Another title that caught my eye too, Thrifty Drought Gardening with Peonies.
Yeah.
Of course, when water, sometimes a little bit of a premium, and we've had some kind of hot, dry summers, but peonies is a perennial, or long-lived, that doesn't need such constant watering. In fact, it doesn't like wet feet. So, man, what a good choice for when water is a little bit lacking.
Well, and peonies also too. Because the flower is great, of course. Most people have them for the flower, but the foliage too is just all season long is a great, wonderful attraction. So that's a great one to do. The one that caught my eye was beware of free plants, because here we are. You're talking about thrifty gardening. Well, getting something for free. Well,
plants with a caution label. Should be included.
But
you think, free. That should be good, right?
And then you think like, well, I'll just stash it over here, and if it works, it does.
What harm can a plant do?
Well, the harm is that it could be a very invasive species, right? That
exactly.
It could take over.
So they list some of those that maybe beware of some of these, even if someone well-intentioning gives you these.
Yeah.
And, of course, one that I noticed was bishop's goutweed. Many of us know that as kind of snow on the mountain.
Yep.
Boy, and a little of that goes a long way.
It is nice. It is nice
travels a long way.
If you can control it where you want it. But it does. It's a spreader, and it can be hard to kill off. Another one, smooth brome.
Some of the ornamental grasses can really take
one
off.
That we have over in our side garden that we're going to be looking at getting rid of, creeping bellflower. Another one that can look nice, but boy, all of a sudden you see it
creeps.
Yes, exactly. It can go all over the place, and this one is this article is great because there's a number of different baby's breath. You never really would have thought.
No, gosh, baby's breath. That sounds so innocent and sweet.
Right.
But baby's breath has actually been declared declared in some states a noxious weed because it seeds, it travels, and becomes just so obnoxious. Another one I liked, favorite unconventional plant pots.
Yes.
That was a good one. Gives ideas for we don't always need to purchase pots. We can use some things.
Right. Yeah. Think of some different uses, and including, I think sometimes, I'm not sure, I haven't read that section, but I know some people will take pots that are maybe a little bit cracked, and instead of having them above ground, they'll put them in the ground as a way to kind of control things from spreading and make it be on that ground level a little bit more. So yeah, good ideas.
Exactly.
You can use things that may be a little bit broken.
Exactly. Another good article, growing tomatoes from seed. So instead of buying your transplants, some down-to-earth, basic, good information on how to grow your very own tomato transplants from seed.
Well, and just recently we were talking about growing seeds that now that there are some that will grow even that much faster from seed, right? We were just talking about that.
We were talking about direct seeding.
Direct seeding,
a tomato plant. Yes. I've got to be convinced of that yet. Direct seeding into the garden.
Sounds too good to be true.
I'm gonna try it. Growing apples in the north. Another good article. Boy, have you seen the price of apples lately?
They keep going up.
Yeah. And so anyway, growing apples. Of course, all of us wish that we might have planted an apple tree like 10 years ago, maybe. But the best time. Okay, it's interesting.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. That reminds me of the old gardening saying, the best time to plant an oak tree was 30 years ago. The next best time is this afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not in February, but we get the point. And so, let's get started on some good apple growing. And, growing your own fruit forest. Good article on that. Growing your own food. So these articles in here, just a wealth of information in these 57 articles, and easy to read.
Yeah, and something even like save time and money and create a better looking garden. Well, I mean that's a yearly thing. That is not necessarily it's not just this year. That's something that you'll want to hold on to. Again, you buy this book and you'll hold on to it for a while. You can keep going back to it. It makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And so it's such a treasure. We talked a little bit about previous year's theme. There was one on small space gardening.
Oh, yeah.
And, many yards now are smaller than they once were. So how to garden in a small space. So one year was the entire edition devoted to articles on that. Flowering shrubs. I mentioned shade gardening. One was fruits and berries. There was an interesting addition on grasses and succulents. So the entire book edition talked about different articles on grasses, ornamental grasses, and succulents. The edition on perennials was a very popular one. Perennials are always in style. So again, each edition is not a trend, a come and go trend. These are editions that I wanted in my own gardening library. Edible landscapes was one edition, and so anyway, what a wonderful resource this is. Again, it's called The Prairie Garden.
And it runs about $20, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
And
they'll ship them to us.
It's pretty much mail order, right?
Yeah, pretty much mail order. We are working, the committee is always working on garden centers that will stock this, because they can certainly, garden centers can buy it from the Prairie Garden Committee. There's a wholesale discount for garden centers, and then customers can buy it directly from that garden center. And so for ordering this book, it's fairly easy to do an online search to find the site. And it's theprairiegarden.ca for Canada, theprairiegarden.ca/order. If you just did a simple online search for the Prairie Garden, Winnipeg, Canada, it will probably get you there. But again, theprairiegarden.ca for Canada /order. And if you have any problems finding it, just give me an email too, and I'll send you.
You can send the link.
Yeah, donald.kinsler@ndsu.edu, and I'll send you the link. But again, for those of you that really enjoy reading about gardening tips and practical garden information, this year's series, this year's edition, as well as all the other editions in this series are I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Great Valentine's Day gift for coming up for people for the gardener in your life.
Definitely. And so, it's really, this book makes me smile because it is so reassuring. When you read this book and the articles within it, it's like you're in a community of gardeners that are going through the same thing that we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to get things to grow well, look nice, produce well. And this year, of course, they're helping us to do it with less money.
And, let's say in theory, let's say last year we had a drought in our larger area. These are people who can relate to that because they're dealing with sometimes the same soil types. They're dealing with a lot of times the same weather. So they will be, it's very relatable for readers in our area.
Exactly. And about half of the articles in each edition are devoted to the topic of that year, this year, budget-minded gardening. And the other half are just articles of interest. And so what I get a kick out of, these things are so practical. Okay, here's one example. Okay, somebody wrote to me and sent me pictures of these galls on oak. Well, one of the contributors to the Prairie Garden is in the Winnipeg area, Ian Weiss, who is an entomologist, just with a wealth of information. Well, in this edition, he wrote about these galls on bur oak. They're caused by insects. And so now I can answer that person's question of are they going to cause problems? So there is a wealth of good information. Some of the articles are written by everyday home gardeners like you and me.
Yeah.
Others are written by scientists. And so like you mentioned, these articles are well vetted. And so I can't speak highly enough about this. I was just tickled when I discovered this book series.
All right, let's take another quick break. When we come back, more with the Prairie Garden book, and also a look at an event, Don, that you've got coming up.
Yes, webinars coming.
If you're loving this podcast, be sure to check out our full lineup. From news and local politics to sports and true crime, find your next great listen right now at inforum.com/podcasts. That's inforum.com/podcasts.
All right, we're back and we're talking about The Prairie Garden. This is a book that comes out every year, looks at gardening in our area. Every year they've got a different theme. You found one little bit that you wanted to take a little bit of a look at.
Well, a good example of the tidbits that are in this. Okay, in the article, Good Gardening Practices Leave Us Richer Than We Think. Okay, in looking at that article, John, how in our perennial gardens, by fall, there's leaves that have dropped. Maybe some tree leaves have blown in. You got the stems and different things. And sometimes, do you ever wonder, how much of this am I supposed to clean out of the perennial bed?
Right.
Well,
we talk about
one
that all
of the
time.
subheadings in that article, to rake or not to rake.
Yes.
So this article, the author discusses then that we don't necessarily need to clean out the perennial beds, and it discusses the benefits of actually some of the leaves and different things that filter in. So a good discussion on to rake or not to rake.
Yeah.
So some of the practicality is just one example of practicality in this wonderful edition.
Yeah, it's really, I'm glad that you brought this in this week because talk about that because this time of year, again, this book will be around all year, but this time of year, it's nice to get something new in, nice to be able to do more than just think about the gardening. Like you can have some seeds going at home, but it's nice. This will help me do a little bit more planning for this year.
Yes, it's a good time to order this and do some reading. I love February, March to kind of do some reading, some planning, thinking, get me ahead. Because April and May, a person's busy. You get out in the yard, but man, February, March, what wonderful time to grab a book, look out at the snow, grab a cup of coffee, and do some good reading.
And you know what you should do? This is my advice for people out there. Go to your local library and ask them to subscribe to this.
Yes.
It's $20 a year.
Amen.
It's really not that bad. They can have a whole collection of them, and then it becomes a nice reference for.
Yes.
And
that is a great idea.
And it really would be something that would be very doable. I think your library would be very happy to do that because it's very affordable for the amount of information in there. You could suggest that they get a couple of copies. What I would do is I would go look it up, get the information online, bring that to your library, email it to your library, look for their acquisitions department, do that. Because I think that this would be really valuable for the community.
That is a great idea. And I love your idea, especially for this reason. Okay, currently there are many back issues that are available. At some point, when those back issues are sold out, they may not be available again.
Yeah.
So if a library orders these, or you yourself for your home library, but if a public library orders these before they're gone, they'll have them.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. They'll have them there for people to check out forever.
Yeah, that's a really fun thing.
Great idea, John.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, speaking of great ideas, you've got a fun program coming up.
Yes, it's almost time for my spring webinar series. I do spring live Zoom webinars on Monday evenings, starting February 24th, and for the 4 weeks after that. Now, these are live Zoom webinars meant to be interactive, and usually we have a couple of people that join in or watching these Zooms. They are recorded, but there's something with just joining live, and you can ask questions in the chat box and all the good stuff, and we can have a good interchange that way. So, beginning February 24th, that's a Monday, 7 p.m., the first one is all the when-tos of gardening. Gardening is all about timing. When do you start your tomato plants? When's the best time to do shrubs? When should we trim our roses? When do we need to get the crabgrass preventer put down? When do we stop harvest of rhubarb? And so during that 1 hour webinar, we're going to set up the calendar for the entire next year. We're going to do all the when-tos of that. And so we'll discuss it. So, and then the following Monday evening is how to have the best flowering containers you've ever had.
Oh, that would be yeah.
And in next week's podcast, we'll talk about the ones after that. So anyway, for these webinars, all 4 of these, the easiest way to get to the registration site is this: just do an online search for Cass County NDSU. Cass County NDSU. That will take us to our NDSU Cass County Extension page, and there's an event spot there. So you'll see these webinars, and the registration link is right there. It's an easy registration. These are free, no cost, but
anybody can join.
Anybody can join. And the registration link there, that will then, I'll send you the Zoom link to chime in or to tune in. And so again, they are recorded, but you do need to register for it. And again, there's no substitute for just joining in live. It's kind of fun to be on a webinar that 200-300 people are all kind of working together on it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to say anything. With these Zoom webinars, I'm presenting, you can put things in the chat box, but everybody's camera is off, your microphone is off, so it doesn't matter if your dog is barking in the background, it doesn't matter if you're in your jammies. So it's just, you hear me talking, but you do have the means to interplay
What
also.
time do they start?
7 p.m.
Okay.
Yep, 7 p.m. Central Time.
Okay.
Yep, 7 p.m. Central Time, Monday, February 24th.
Well, great.
So again, just do an online search, Cass County NDSU. takes you to our event page.
All right. Well, that sounds good. If people have more questions for you about anything, either about these upcoming webinars or just any kind of garden-related question, what's the best way to reach you?
Email me, donald.kinsler, KINZLER, @ndsu.edu. And we'll read one of the questions that comes in each week.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And then hopefully we'll get some feedback. These people have tried these. They've listened to your solution. They've listened to your advice.
The questions, if someone has a question, we've usually all had that question.
Yep.
I can't think of a question that has come in that I haven't myself had that question. Maybe how to grow a coconut palm. I guess I haven't myself had that question, but I've been asked. But sometimes, always fun.
Sometimes I hear questions. I'm like, oh, I did want to know that.
Yes.
I didn't even think about asking that.
Yeah,
and I'm glad someone else
I do
did.
need to know that.
Yes, exactly.
You got it, John.
So it's always very good. Well, Don, thanks again for coming by.
Thank you, John, and thanks everyone for listening.